Hey, twisted people. It's your twisted woman here, Chauncey K. Robinson, aka Twisted CKR. And I am excited because I'm actually enjoying this season of American Horror Story, season 10, episode 3. A double feature, American Horror Story double feature. And the way this one is working is that we kind of have two stories that are going to be happening this season. And this is the first story, Red Tide. And then I guess there's a second story, I think Death Valley it's called, that's supposed to be happening. I think Red Tide's like 6 episodes. Death Valley is about 4. So 10 episodes in total, and things are moving quickly. We don't know if these episodes are going to be connected or what, but all I know is that I am really, really enjoying what we are getting thus far when it comes to it. But thank you to all of you who are joining in the live chat and all of you who are joining in the replay. It's always appreciated because I do love talking stories with you all. And I mean, particularly, scary stories, as this is a horror and sci-fi channel. That I, focus on these kind of stories. And I have to say, I am really enjoying American Horror Story this season. American Horror Story 1984 was my jam. I really enjoyed it because I'm an 80s type of person. I love that. I love that kind of aesthetic. But I have to admit that this one is definitely playing into the horror factor a lot more. I loved the previous season because it had the campiness and things like that, but it wasn't as scary, right? There wasn't really a scare thing. There was kind of more of a slasher thing. This one is definitely bringing the, whoa, what's going to happen? Who's going to get killed next? What's going on kind of vibe to it. And it's definitely intriguing, if nothing else. Hey, Tad, thanks for joining us in the live chat. Cheers from Iowa. What's up, Iowa? Shout outs to Iowa. Isaiah, thank you so much. I love you guys too. And I love that you all join me for talking these stories of the things that I love watching. It's always great. Fred, thanks for joining us in the live chat, is saying Red Tide and Death Valley are connected. It was confirmed a couple of days ago by Leslie Grossman, which is really cool. Thanks for that, Fred. I try to sometimes stay away from what they're saying behind the scenes because I'm like, I want to be a little bit surprised. But I kind of had a feeling that it needed to be connected only because of the fact that, why split it up then, right? Like, why do 2 and 1 if it wasn't somewhat connected to each other? In fact, I would feel like they were kind of shortchanging, particularly Red Tide, because Red Tide is so good so far. So if it wasn't connected, I'd feel some type of way, I think, because I'd be like, okay, we're just going to cut it short to jump to this new thing. Why? And a lot of things happened this episode, right? And first and foremost, I want to ask you all, if you had to give this episode of Red Tide, American Horror Story double feature, so many titles there, what would it be? I want to know y'all thoughts. Let me know in the live chat and also in the comment section, the replay section, what your grade would be. And are you loving it so far? Are you enjoying this so far? Do you enjoy where this is going? Because I know when it comes to most shows that have been on for some time, even ones that haven't been on for some time, we've all got our opinions. And I know from what I've seen on the interwebs, there is this kind of thought process around American Horror Story where some people have continued to love all the seasons, while others kind of do this thing where they say it was in its glory days in the first 4 or 5 seasons, and then all the seasons after that have been crap, right? So I kind of see those two groups when I see people kind of talking about the show, and I wonder what's your feelings? Do you feel like American Horror Story has stayed pretty consistent and great throughout, or do you think it lost its luster? And do you think this season is bringing it back to true form? So I want to know what y'all thoughts are about that, because I see that kind of discussion going on online, and I'm curious to know y'all thoughts, because I say that as someone who I haven't watched all the seasons, because I do treat this series like an anthology series. So depending on what the story looks like is going to make me think if I'm going to watch or not. I'm not one of those people who I'm going to sit through every single one just because it's on the show. It's more like, okay, this looks like an interesting season or story. I'll watch this one. This one, not so much. I won't watch it. So that's why I haven't seen all of them, but the ones I choose to see, I usually like, but that's probably because the ones I choose. And I do think it plays a little bit into, depending on the theme, especially for horror people, not everyone's into every subgenre, right? Some people like aliens. Some people don't. Some people like the vampire thing. Some people don't. Some people like werewolves. Some people don't. Some people like psychological thrillers, while people like some others like more supernatural. So I do think that kind of plays into whether or not you'll enjoy every single season, because they are all different kinds of stories, right? And not everyone loves every subgenre of horror. That's just right. I know I don't. There are some subgenres of horror I can take or leave. And then there's others where I'm like, that's my jam, such as 1984. I saw that and I was like, this is my jam. I need to watch this. I need to watch this season. Right. Isaiah is saying, I want more Billy Lord. Definitely. Tad is saying, was just wondering if with the aliens and all that, if Kit and Alma's daughter might be the chemist. If Kit and Alma's daughter, isn't Alma the little girl? Am I confused? I thought Alma was the little girl. Because I know we actually saw the chemist, right? We saw the chemist this past episode. So that was really cool. Supposedly she's the chemist. So that's actually pretty cool. Isaiah saying, I think ebbs and flows and the season seems much more promising and classic horror. I agree, Isaiah. I definitely think this is definitely more of a classic horror, old school kind of feel, foggy town, things go on at night, secrets are happening, as they do in small towns. We all love to see it, whether we live in a small town or not. So, let's get into what actually happened this season. I'm going to actually look that up. I want to make sure I've been saying this right. I thought Alma was the little girl. I'm pretty sure, right? Don't want to be saying it wrong the whole time. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe it's not. What's the little girl's name? Oh, I get what you're saying. Because like I said, I don't watch every season. So it's actually someone else from another season. Okay. From Asylum. Thank you, Ted. I just caught it. I just looked it up. Like I said, I haven't watched every single season. I kind of pick which ones I watch. So I wasn't up on that one. Fred is saying, so far, Red Tide is very compelling story. I currently prefer this season over the past few. Tad is saying, Kid and Alma, who had the half alien baby from Asylum. You might be right. And if the chemist, she is, a Black woman. So, that, and Alma was, so that you might actually be onto something there. Okay. So let's kind of get into what actually happened this episode. So for me, my grade for this episode is definitely an A. I think it might just be because of the fact that they have 6 episodes to tell this first part of the story. So it's not dragging. And I really appreciate that nothing's dragging, but it's not moving at a breakneck speed to the point where so much is happening that I can't really settle into, what is actually going on in the show. So I appreciate that too, because although there's not a dull moment and new things are happening and things are going on, the show has really kept a pace where I don't feel like I'm playing catch up, but I'm actually being, brought on a journey. So I'm really loving that so far. So I definitely gave this episode an A. It had a little bit more humor, I feel like, than the previous 2 episodes. And, that just tends to happen when American Horror Story shows, seasons, or just Ryan Murphy products in general. They tend to lean a little bit more sometimes into the humor after a bit. If you've seen any of their other shows that Ryan does with his team. And so it does get it can get a little humorous, for better or worse. I love the fact that there was humor in here, but it definitely did not overtake the tone of the show. It kept with the suspense, although there was a bit more humor in this episode, which I appreciated. Ursula came to town. The manager, the agent, she's not a manager. She pointed that out. She came to town, and now she is in town. Fred is asking, what are your thoughts on Ursula? This is my thing about her. It's really, I love the fact that she's kind of, I mean, as someone who is in LA proper here as I am, it's always interesting where there's a bit more, it kind of comes from Ryan and them because they are also in Hollywood and stuff, where she is very much maybe a caricature, maybe not so much a caricature, very much a character that we've seen in these settings, like a person like her, kind of like, I don't care what you all are doing. I'm going to give you some of my clients. I'm going to make a whole bunch of money from this or whatever, right? In a way, I didn't mind that. I didn't mind that she came in. She kind of throws a wrench in the plans, right? She's like, something's going on here. I need to know what, but not because I'm trying to save anybody or anything, but because I think there's money to be made as an agent. So I thought, okay, that's cool. I did think it was a little, I guess she's also kind of like, I live in Hollywood. I've seen way worse people. So she's kind of like not afraid of anything in this sense. And I like that. Although I do hope that they don't make it so she's one of those characters that are kind of untouchable. Like they come in and they kind of just put everyone in their place. And she's kind of like, I'm not afraid that you're going to kill me. I'm not afraid of this. I'm standing up to everyone. I've got plans. And they kind of just go do that. I feel like that makes them kind of I feel like it can be too disruptive. It feels a little too disruptive to the story. When characters like that come in and they don't care at all for the order of things. But at the same time, her character is needed clearly to get things going. We finally got to see the chemist, right? Which was great because the chemist kept getting talked about. And here we are, we finally got to see the chemist and what she's about. Things like that, which were interesting. I feel like to have her do that. And then, the whole situation with Mickey, I am loving Macaulay Culkin in his role. He's lovable, but he also has issues and he has hopes, but you kind of wonder how he got there. It's one of those things. It's like we'll talk about that in a second, but yeah, with Ursula, I'm okay with her so far. She wasn't, I feel like, I kind of want to follow Belle and Austin a bit more. We didn't get to see tuberculosis Karen as much as I would have liked, but it's okay because I'm sure she's gonna, emerge more as the season goes. But I thought Ursula was fine. I think as Isaiah is pointing out, Ursula definitely feels like a Coco and Apocalypse. But Leslie Grossman plays that type of character very well. And I agree with you. She does. I remember her, I don't know, I'm going to do a deep cut, y'all, but I don't know if y'all used to watch the show, the short-lived show, but it was actually quite a great show, Popular. It came on, I guess, what is now known as CW, but back in the day, it was like considered Warner WB or whatever. And she was on Popular. That's when I first saw her act. And she was a little bit of a different character on Popular, but she still kind of had that country home type of, very direct kind of thing. And, we've seen that. What I Like About You, I think she was on that show too, which is kind of that same kind of character, very observant, very much, saying it how it is, not really having a filter sort of a deal. I feel like with Ursula in this particular one, and of course, she kind of played this character last season, in the second half of last season. The first half of last season, she was more like devout. She wasn't as like zany. And then she kind of turns into that, a little bit more cutthroat. And so, like is being said, she's good at playing that kind of character. It would be interesting if Ryan ever gives her something that's a little different, like, like with Emma Roberts. Emma Roberts is good at playing the bad girl, but she's also can play the good girl too, right? So it'll be interesting if we ever get to see her play a different kind of character, a more drastically different kind of character, although there's been variations, right? But she's very good at playing this kind of character. The question is, will this character turn annoying in the sense of uprooting everything, or will it play a very good kind of segue into moving things along? So far, I think it's a good segue to move things along. Harry is losing it, right? You know, that's what's happening that's what we see in this episode, because the little girl took the pill. And I want to know what y'all thoughts are. I'm not the biggest fan of kids in horror stuff, because a lot of time I think they're used as plot points to kind of move things along quicker, but in a contrived kind of way a little bit. Like the kid gets themselves in danger. The kid does this and we all have to stop and do this. I feel like there's a little bit of a borderline with this character a little bit. Yes, Eric, I also loved Popular. I was kind of sad when it got canceled so soon, because I thought it was such a good show. And so we remember her from that. But, you know, I feel like with the little girl, Harry was already sort of losing it, right? Because he had already started killing people in places he shouldn't have, right? Because Belle and Austin told him, do not kill people in P-Town. Go outside of P-Town. Go kill people outside of P-Town. But then he started killing, as we saw in the second episode, Harry started killing people under the Dick Dock. It's called the Dick Dock, right? Harry started killing people under the Dick Dock. And when he did that in episode 2, I was like, he's not supposed to do that. Like, yeah, he kept his gloves on, but he's like supposed to do this outside of town. He's kind of doing this on the beach in town. He just kind of started doing stuff he wasn't supposed to be doing, which was, you know, already an issue. And I think episode 3 kind of went further into that. He's not, you know, he's not a good dad in the sense of, you know, he should have put his foot down with his daughter, but instead it was kind of like, well, if I take it, I won't take it, but then I can't take it. So then she's holding out her hand. And I just think to myself, even if he continues to take the pills, he is the adult in this situation. Like the fact that she kind of became super bratty, you know, and I blame it on the pills a little bit, but I kind of don't, because we saw instances in episode 2 that she was a little snooty. You know, this little girl was a little snooty in episode 2. And I feel like, and we kind of had this debate in the last live stream, right, y'all, where I at first was thinking that the pills made people the worst of themselves in a way. Like it kind of brought out something that made them not good. Like, and it wasn't really them. And then someone else, I can't remember who, in the live chat, sorry about that, but they said they actually think the pills, that the pills actually reveal who the person actually is. And I thought that was a very interesting thing, because I was like, well, I feel like the pill kind of just makes them worse, but maybe they're not really like that. And then someone was like, you know, no, I think the pill actually kind of reveals the person as they are. And I'm actually starting to think more and more that person, raise your hand if that was you, but they may be right, because we're seeing with some people when they take the pill, they turn to jerks, you know, and others not so much. You know, they still have an edge to them, but they're not as cruel. Almost, you know, I mean, they're there to survive and stuff, but not in such a cruel way. And I feel like the daughter really just got, whoa, but it was also like there were remnants of that already. Harry became really cocky about his talent and stuff. Maybe that was already there. But then you have people like Mickey, who he's still a decent guy. You know, he doesn't want to kill Ursula. He's kind of like, oh, you know, I've always wanted to do that. He's still very sweet. I mean, yeah, he did kill a guy on the beach, but he still, for the most part, has been okay. I mean, Belle is that chick. We love Belle so far. And so she's been good, but I feel like that was always maybe parts of her personality. And Austin, he's cruel at times, but he's also not. So I'm kind of like, is the pill doing this to people? Or maybe that's kind of how they already were, and it's just putting it up a notch. And so with the daughter, she's also put a wrench in the plans, right? And I feel like Harry, and he explains that he didn't have the very best upbringing with his father, so he doesn't know how to be a good father and whatnot. And he's lying to Doris. He's lying to his wife. There's a whole thing about that, and we'll talk about that. And he's letting her have the pills. But I think to myself, well, if you're going to keep taking the pills, you're the adult. You can tell her she can't take it. You honestly can, even if you kept taking it. Not that I agree with him continuing to take it either, but that does not have to be an automatic that, oh, you get to have it too. You're the father, not her brother. You get what I'm saying? But I want to know what y'all thoughts are on that, because I felt like you almost, and I don't know if they did that on purpose, because maybe on some point, eventually this kid is supposed to die. Maybe that's what's happening, and they're just making it so we won't care as much when she does because of how gross she's gotten. She already wants to off her mother. She's like, why are we still with our mom? And I'm like, whoa, it's been a day. Calm down. Because this is the thing. Even Harry wasn't like that. You know, Harry still loves Doris. He still loves his wife. He doesn't want her to leave him. None of that. But the daughter is kind of like, we don't need her. I'm like, whoa, 0 to 60. What's going on here, right? Or maybe it could be just because she's young, so it revs up, right? Maybe because she's so young that it's making her even worse, because she's not supposed to have it as a child, right? Because, you know, certain medications do affect kids differently than adults. So that could be it as well. But I want to know y'all thoughts on that, because although I understood the role she needed to play in pushing Harry to that point, at the same time, I was like, oh, this is a little annoying that she's kind of like the wrench in the plans of everything. But I guess that had to happen, you know, in a way. Isaiah is saying, I thought Doris having false contractions felt like a lazy way to get her out of the house for a while. Very much. It was a bit contrived. I actually thought Doris faked that at first. I thought that Doris faked it to get it so that the captain couldn't take the daughter couldn't take the daughter. But then it turns out, and we find out with Doris in the hospital, that she's actually had multiple contractions before. I mean, not multiple contractions. She's had multiple miscarriages. So I kind of thought that was interesting that they revealed that. And I wonder if that'll play into Doris's character feeling like, you know, because we already know, and there's been a debate on whether or not she's going to end up taking the pill, and she might end up turning into one of those things, because the question is Doris actually talented? We don't necessarily think that when it comes to her housing and interior design, right? So it was like, at first I was like, maybe she has some other hidden talent, like being a great mother. But maybe that might play into it, because her thinking, I've had miscarriages, so maybe I'm not a good mom. Not that that is what that means at all, but that could be what she, you know, interprets that as, right? So I think we'll, you know, see how that plays in too as well. Joey, thanks for joining us in the chat, is saying, nah, she was a brat since scene 1, way before the pill. Yeah, I agree. I think the character might have been a brat. The daughter is, Alma is kind of a brat since jump, and it's, you know, that's a thing. Ray is saying, I love me some Mary Cherry. That's when I fell for this actress on the popular track. Yes. Thanks for joining us is saying, Roy Boy is saying, agree about the pills making you worse. Isaiah is saying, I was taken aback by how mean Alma was to her mom. Exactly. And I was like, whoa, Alma went from 0 to 60, but it's not even that it was just the pill. Because when she had an E, and I was like, okay, sure. But then she kept being mean. Like, Harry has ebbs and tides, right? He has moments when he's really sweet to Doris. He kind of calms down, and then he's chill. And then other times when he goes kind of, you know, and all of them do that. But Alma just kind of stayed being mean and rude. And I don't know if that's a pill affecting her because she's younger, or if that's just how she has been, and they haven't been very good at keeping her in. Tad is saying, but they said the pill just makes you more than who you are. Yeah, makes you more of who you are. So you might be right on that. So maybe Alma was just a spoiled brat and it got worse. Isaiah is saying, I'm interested to see what withdrawals from the pills look like. Exactly. It seems so far that the main withdrawal is that you can't really do what you have to do. And we know with Alma, unlike the writers and stuff who can do it for a season and then don't take the pills for like the rest of the year, so they don't need the cravings. So we know that they can get off the pill for some months at a time without it being so bad of a thing. But with Alma, because of the fact, as Harry points out, you play music all year round, so you're going to always have to stay on the pills, which is just dumb. It's not good. I mean, I really feel like Harry should have just put his foot down and said, no, you can't do it. Or wait till you're 16 or something. You're like 9. Or she's 9 years old. You're really going to do this for the next, 9 years with this girl? You're really okay with killing people for the rest of 9 years all year round because she's hungry all the time? Like, how's that going to work? Ray is saying these vampires don't seem to have as many of the powers as the afflicted in the Hotel Cortez. Maybe the synthetics are weaker. Definitely. There's more of a chemical thing with these vampires, right? And the question is, are they really vampires, right? In a way, because it's more so, as Austin explains to Harry in episode 2, is that, your stuff gets depleted. And that's what makes you crave blood. It's not so much that you're like, oh, it's more so what the pill does to your body. Because we know that they don't have to feed all year round, that they only need to feed because of what the pill does, not because of what necessarily the pill makes them permanently. That's what we found out. So it is more of they are synthetic vampires in that regard. So we have that going on. So, I mean, Ursula's in town. Alma is going bonkers. Harry's kind of losing his grip. Then we have a whole scene with Harry going to a house. And that was a crazy tangent, but also ridiculously glorious in its own way of what happened there, where he goes to a place by himself because he's not very good at this. Belle and Austin kind of have this down to a science. Him, not so much. So he goes to a place. He hesitates to kill the woman. He's about to get caught up in a snuff film. I thought, whoa, this is about to get real dark. But it did still get real dark, just not as dark as it could have gotten. And he kills those 2 people. But there's a camera. And we don't know if he totally cleaned up after himself, right? We don't know. He's like, oh, these are people no one will miss. But these are people who actually put films and stuff out, right? So is someone going to come noticing that these people aren't putting films out anymore, the snuff films that they did? And, he didn't have his gloves on when he killed them, right? We know he didn't have his gloves on when he killed them. So did he really do a good job cleaning up? And I don't know if he did, because Harry's a writer who ended up getting this kind of gift. But I mean, how good is he at this? Because, he slipped up. His daughter's taking the pills now. He may not be as meticulous as Belle and Austin are. So I wonder if that situation is going to come back on him. But the thing is, I was like, well, as soon as I saw it, I thought, okay, this is going to come back against him because the chief is going to find out about it. But then Alma kills the chief. The chief dies, y'all. And I want to know what y'all thought about that. I didn't think she'd die by episode 3. I honestly thought that it would be one of those things where she'd be investigating it throughout for most of the time at Red Tide. And it's interesting that they took her out of the equation, because now it almost feels like there's not as much danger of anyone getting caught and exposed if the chief is gone, right? So that was kind of interesting. But it also means that maybe there's something else that can go on. Because I kind of thought this season was going to be all of them doing this stuff and then being afraid of being exposed by the chief. But if you get rid of the chief, well, where's the stakes at? What are the stakes? But then we find out the chemist goes to Austin and Belle, and it's like, deal with Ursula and kill the other guy too, and kill Harry and kill the daughter, which is an interesting twist. And why does the chemist want to stay off the radar? Why does the chemist not care about, the money that Ursula is offering her and things like that? But then again, we saw that the chemist has a nice house and everything like that. So maybe the chemist I don't need your money. I like what I do, and I don't need to suddenly get a whole bunch of clientele, right? So I think that's also the question there, right? Let's see what some of y'all are saying. Hey, Dark Side, welcome, Horror Sister. Ray is saying, so what we know so far from the creators is none of the fan theories initially correct outside a double feature will be a callback to vampires and aliens. Uh-huh. Joey is pointing out, Joey's Maggoth is saying also he wasn't wearing gloves. Exactly. He was not wearing gloves, y'all. That's going to be an issue. Isaiah's also saying, I think the decision to have the vampires feed on people in poverty to gain success is a very interesting choice. I also agree with that. I was talking about that in the live stream, how there's an opioid crisis going on, and not just in the fictional world, in the real world as well, right? There is an opioid crisis in this country. And it's very interesting that the show takes that into consideration and kind of has this thing of these Hollywood elites or wannabe Hollywood elites coming in and kind of becoming drug addicts, but not really drug addicts, and then kind of preying on the people that are actually really drug addicts and need real help, right? And it kind of is somewhat of a reflection of our society. We saw that with the war on drugs and things where certain people, like the cocaine versus crack epidemic, right? Where, cocaine was more so for wealthy elites in suburbs and stuff, and crack was the other place. And so what would happen is that within the legal system, the justice system, people who were caught with crack cocaine, which was associated with more poor people, were given harsher sentences, while people who were associated and caught up with cocaine, with regular cocaine, were given lesser sentences. And it was surmised that it was because that was associated with wealthier people, even though it was the same drug, just in a different thing, right? And I feel like the show kind of plays on that a little bit, where you have these people who take these drugs and they need to kill people and stuff like that in order to get their temptations and everything, but they also kind of do it in this elite kind of way, while the ones who take the drugs and they turn the way they do and they're in poverty and they're eating animals, they're more so vilified, right? And that's very much what we see when it comes to the show as well. Tad is pointing out, did you catch the mermaid door knocker at the chemist's house? I did. And I think that's going to be I also agree. We're seeing the things of the ocean. We remember, if you remember, y'all, earlier, I think it was the first episode, two of the walkers, I think, two of those, the faceless walkers type thing, they washed up on the beach and it looked like their stomachs had been cut open. So the question is, who's feeding on them? Who killed those people, right? Who killed them, right? So what was that about? And could it be the mermaids? Could it be that some of these people are fodder, that they're not the highest on the food chain, right? Ray says, this does have a parallel between the crack and cocaine epidemics, the classism and elitism that separates the identical groups. Yeah, I definitely agree. Okay, so the captain is dead, y'all. Do you think it was a good idea that they killed the captain off so early? And were you expecting that? I want to know. Let me know, y'all. Were you expecting that they were going to kill the captain off as early as they did in the show? I didn't think they were going to do that. I'm a little sad that they did, because I felt like she was the one person that had some sense to her in that regard. But at the same time, I was like, well, it might have gotten boring after a bit if they kept going back and forth with this, is she going to catch them or not, right? So I'm kind of glad that they did that. And are you feeling Alma? Do you think Alma is on a path of having to be killed? Like, that she's gotten to, it's going to get to the point where we're not going to be able to keep Alma around because she's too much of a risk. Everybody else seems to realize once they feel that, and once they know Alma is an issue, that they need to kill her, except Harry, because that's, his daughter. But it seems like everyone else, seems to understand that Alma might need to die because she's a loose end, and there's no way anyone's going to be able to keep that little girl in check, right? Especially if something happens to Harry, because this is the thing. she doesn't have, like, the thing is, these vampires, none of them have superhero strength, right? The only thing is that they need blood. They don't get superhero strength from this pill or anything. So they're still vulnerable. They can still die, you know? So I just don't think that if Harry isn't there to protect her, that she's long for this world, you know? Ray is saying, LOL, we won't have mermaids. It's like Mephisto. It's already been said, first half vampires, second half aliens, half aliens, no aliens. A bait and switch if had to use that pun. I don't know. I mean, we don't know where this all comes from. And there is a thing of the ocean. So that could be something thrown in. But maybe, you know, they got them underwater for a reason, right? Look at the picture. They're underwater. What's that about? One is on sand, one is in water. Why are the vampires associated with water? I don't know. Isaiah is saying, I just don't like that Alma was the one to kill her. It didn't feel earned. Yes, I agree. I mean, it kind of, I guess, although it kind of makes sense that Alma would be the one to kill her, just because that would probably be the only one that the chief would have let her guard down around, because she figured this little girl wouldn't do that. But so it kind of makes sense that it would happen, but I agree. It wasn't, considering who this chief is and the foil she played with the rest of them. You kind of had hope that she'd have a bigger, grandioso kind of, you know, end in that regard. And to the dark side, Alma don't listen. And that's, to me, I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan of kids in horror because of that very trope that they don't listen. You tell them something, they don't listen, and it becomes a whole tangent of them doing something that causes a whole bunch of issues. So we'll see. We'll see about that. So y'all, let me know, what are some of your theories when it comes to the show? Okay, I've got my theories on where all of this is heading, but I want to know what y'all think. Let me know in the comment section, and also in the replay, in the comment section replay, and also in the live. And also, y'all, if you haven't already, please do give this video a like and a thumbs up. Feed the algorithm monster. They don't need blood, but they need engagement. So that's the algorithm monster. Isaiah is saying, however, I will take Alma over the boring blonde kids from Hotel. That's a good point. Ray is saying, Alma gotta go. She's a loose end, and she's gonna out the whole gang. Yeah, she's very much a loose end, and at this point, I don't see her being able to stick around unless she gets off the pill. But the way that she's so attached, she even told her dad, I don't want to get married. I don't want to have kids. I just want to play music. And I'm like, they did not do a good job of having this girl, you know, a little bit more well-adjusted. And I feel like that's also being revealed with the pill. Welcome to the Dark Side saying, also, Alma kept saying she was hungry every 5 minutes, right? And I don't know, maybe it's because she's a kid and she's taking this medication that is working through her body a lot quicker. But they're not going to be able to keep that going. You know, that's just not going to work in the long haul, especially if Doris isn't on board. So I want to know what some of y'all theories are. It looks like next episode, getting more of a flashback episode of how Belle came to be, how Austin came to be. It's also interesting because we saw in the preview that Mickey seems to have known the chemist and had brought Belle to the chemist. That's what we saw in the preview. So I'm kind of confused in a way, but in a good way, not in a, oh my gosh, this is going to be a problem, but more like, oh, what's the real story? What's going on here? Is Mickey more of a pivotal player than we thought he was, right? When it comes to the chemist, and are certain things going to be revealed? Because the funny thing is, with the chemist, she told Austin and Belle that she didn't take the deal with Ursula. But can we believe that she didn't take that she didn't take the deal? You know, did she not take the deal, or is she just telling Austin and Belle she didn't take the deal, and then somehow wanting to have them off each other or something? Because we all know with American Horror Story that there are always these twists and turns, and if you don't see the whole scene, sometimes you can guess that maybe there's going to be something else revealed with the rest of the scene later, right? We've seen that in previous seasons, that if you don't see all of it, there's a chance that there's a reason why you didn't see all of it. So are we going to see that she didn't necessarily deny Ursula, right? So that's one thing. What is the question is, what does the chemist really want? Who really is the chemist? And why this pill? Why the small town? What's going on with that, right? And then also, Doris is in the hospital. She's going to have to find out what's going on eventually. And the question then is, as we've all been thinking, is Doris going to take the pill somehow? Now, I know some of you are saying Doris is going to take the pill and she's going to turn into one of those monsters because she's not talented. I think that's too obvious to me. I think it's too obvious that Doris is going to take the pill and going to turn into one of those things. I'm holding out hope just because this actress is such a great actress and I don't want her to be wasted in such a predictable kind of way, that I'm hoping that if she does take it, that something will be revealed, that she has another like talent or something that we don't know. Joey Magath is saying, true, we didn't see the ending there. This plus Mickey was there and we see him friendly with the chemist. Exactly. So it's like one moment it was like, oh, kill him and her little henchman too. She's telling Austin and Belle. But the thing is, if we go by the little preview we got for next episode, the chemist knows Mickey. So why did she just call him his little henchman? You get what I'm saying? Like, what's going on there? And if he knew her, why didn't he go and get the pills from her directly? Why steal it from Belle? So I think there's a little bit more to the story there. So we'll have to see. Isaiah is saying the baby gonna eat her from the inside out if she takes those pills. OMG. That could be also the case, because if she takes it and the baby needs it, the baby might have to start eating inside the mom, right? For nutrients. It might get real. That's a real dark thought, Isaiah, but you might be onto something with that. Eric is saying, I feel like she took it, but off screen. Yeah. Eric, are you talking about Doris? Or are you talking about the chemist taking the deal with Ursula off screen? Either one could be something, although I don't think Doris took the pill just yet. But yeah, there's a lot going on here, and I'm really excited for the flashback episode that we seem to be getting next episode, because I do think that there's going to be a reveal of things that maybe weren't as obvious to us going into it, you know? And I think that'll be interesting. Okay, so Eric is saying Doris took it off, saying she might have. But when her hair start coming out, or maybe it's a delayed reaction because she's pregnant. I guess we'll see with that as well. But I'm really hoping that it's not an obvious she takes it and then we find out she's not, and she just becomes one of those things, but she's pregnant. That would be so predictable. I mean, it would be tragic, but it would also be very predictable. And I kind of want Alma to get what's coming to her. And I hate to say that about a kid, but I do think she needs to be taken down a peg or two. I would, then again, this is also a Ryan Murphy product. So knowing him, he may want people to really like Alma. And then we see a fast forward to years later, and Alma is allowed to grow up and, become what Ryan loves characters like that to become, which is somehow the protagonist, even though she's not likable. He does that, right? We saw that with American Horror Stories, with the character of Ruby and Scarlet, where they became the center focus, but it was like, oh my gosh, they're not likable, right? So I guess we'll see, because I don't know. I feel like she needs to get her comeuppance in that regard, but I also worry that Ryan may be trying to shape this character to be some kind of, badass villain later on, or badass that he will think she's a badass, but in reality, we just don't like her and he won't listen. Because he does that. He does that with characters sometimes. Isaiah is saying, LL, the Alma hate train. Yes, there's a little bit of an Alma hate train, but I can't see her long for this world. But I worry that somehow she'll be the last one standing, which, I mean, she's a brat. She's a brat, y'all. And I think she's been a brat since maybe the second episode. So I don't have much love for her. I think if she was less of a brat and then the pill made her that way, I'd have more sympathy. but it's very clear that this is just how she is. So I'm not really feeling that. F those kids, as they say in those memes online, right? But yeah, so far I'm loving it. I'm enjoying the show. I want to know, y'all, in the comment section, also in the replay, if you had to do the scare factor for this episode, what would it be? I give this episode a 6 for the scare factor in terms of the scenes of not knowing where stuff was going to go, people getting kidnapped and killed and all that. So I definitely give it a 6. It's still giving me the fear factor, but I'm definitely giving it a grade of an A thus far. Don't know where this is heading, though. I think the key here is going to be finding out what the chemist wants. I think the chemist is going to be the key, and finding out what the chemist's real end game is. Because what is the chemist's motivation? And I think that's going to hold all the cards, because since they got rid of the chief, them staying undercover and everything isn't the goal here. So what is it? And I think that's what we're going to have to find out, y'all. But yeah, so far so good. Looking forward to episode 4. But thank you all for joining me for this review and kind of breakdown of episode 3, Thirst, of American Horror Story double feature. If you haven't given this video a like already, please do give it a thumbs up. It's always appreciated. And also let me know, y'all, in the comment section, what are your theories? I want to be able to read your theories if you have a longer theory when it comes to where this storyline might be going, because there's some twists and turns, and I'm honestly kind of like, I don't actually know what the end game here is. Like, what is going on, right? Isaiah is saying, I like the look of the ball vampires, but where do they get all their coats? I don't know. I also thought it was very funny that one of the guys who gave the chief the statement was someone who usually comes there in a different time. And he's like, yeah, the guys on in the cemetery with the AIDS era aesthetic kind of a thing. And I was just like, whoa, that's funny. In the sense of like the 80s, what was going on during that time and stuff like that. I thought that was crazy. It was a bit weird, but I actually really did like that scene of that whole scene of him being like, no, I'm not giving you a statement. He walks away. I wonder if he's going to come into play a bit more. I think that'll be good. Joey McGoth is saying, right, and where are the Pell Women's, right? Where are the women, right? Where are they? But then again, maybe women, there's a tendency for a woman, if she really thinks she has talent, maybe she does. And if she doesn't, she won't take it because she'd be too afraid of what's going to happen. I don't know, women's sensibilities or something. I guess we'll see how that plays into it. But so far, so good, y'all. I'm definitely enjoying this. And I really hope that episode 4 keeps the momentum. Tad is getting real dark with it. I want Doris to turn pale and eat her baby. Oh my gosh, Tad. What did Doris do to you? That's dark, Tad. That's dark. I mean, like I said, they could go that route. They could go really extreme with it. I kind of hope they don't, only because I think it would be too predictable on their end. But they could also do that, so we could see. But yeah, y'all, let me know y'all theories. Comment down below and let me know y'all theories. But until next time, thanks for being here with me. It's always a pleasure talking storyline with you. And if you are someone who watches Titans, HBO Max's Titans, come back around on this channel in about 15 to 20 minutes, as I will be doing a live review and maybe a rant, perhaps, of episode 6, Lady Vic, of Titans HBO Max. So check that out, that live stream. And if you also are watching Evil, a show that I do really love, me and my mama are doing a review of the next episode of that this upcoming Tuesday, a live stream review. So check it out, y'all. And thank you so much for joining me. Till next time.